Isn't it the strangest concept that billions of humans, along with many other species, roam around on a giant ball of rock which appears flat to our experience but is rotating continuously at 1000 miles an hour? And then this giant rock, along with others, are in turn revolving around a monster giant which is not even a solid, but a ball of gas at an astounding 67,000 miles an hour. And then the entire system, along with countless others, are revolving across unimaginable distances in time. And yet, we do not experience any of it. Why is it like that? I mean, sure, we have scientific principles now to explain movement and shape along with a possible origin story, but still no idea on why at all. The shape and the movement can be attributed to principles of general relativity, gravity, the shape of space-time due to mass, and then eventually science graduated to quantum physics to explain the inner mechanisms at the tiniest level, which is totally bizarre in its working as compared to the workings of the macrocosm. But the gradual movement of science to trace the path from the gross objects to the subtler constitution of reality points to one simple fact: that the foundation for the nature of reality is not outside, which is observable at the surface level, but rather laid from the subtle inner dimensions, which are beyond general perception, if one can only try to contemplate on what that means. The entire world of objects that we see all around, whether it's sentient like us or insentient like this chair or the grass behind me, can be broken down into organic or inorganic matter, which eventually breaks down into molecules, then elements, and then atoms of our periodic table. And even they too break down further into quarks, leptons, and now bosons, etc. And furthermore down, a theory called string theory speculates them to be composed of just one fundamental entity called strings that seem to vibrate in different dimensions, eventually giving rise to these particles. And that's where we reach the limit of our speculation. Similarly, modern quantum theory describes a fundamental cosmic landscape, a universal wave function, which serves as a vast field of physical potentiality. The apparent localized activity of everyday objects arises naturally from this field when an observation or environmental interaction occurs. The system doesn't magically create an object on demand. Rather, the probability concentrates, entangling the observer with a specific, actualized version of that object. Ultimately, this localized outcome is not a random accident, but a strictly deterministic evolution of the entire system of reality unfolding as a unified whole. I apologize if I got too much into the science, but I had to illustrate that the reality as we experience it seems to be built upon something absolutely unchanging and uniform as the foundation, upon which the subtle possible mechanisms of change are manifested, essentially from the inside out, giving rise to this infinite material universe, or even multiple versions of it. Going back to the nature of that fundamental reality from which all this arises, there are these profound statements in the Mundaka Upanishad of the Vedas that say that the ultimate reality gives rise to the universe, similar to how the hair grows on a human body, or like how a spider spins out web from within itself and then retracts back inside into itself. So basically, the world as we know it is just a manipulation of that one fundamental essence, which has no parts in truth, but are imagined temporarily only to disappear again. And that is how we know our experience of the reality to be. Just like a mirage in the desert, just how our mind dreams an entire realm at night, the principal awareness generates this illusion of the universe within itself without ever undergoing any change. A truly grand illusion, the grandest of all. And how I think it is accomplished is exactly how quantum physics explains and the scriptures meticulously describe, that the reality being ever changeless or immutable can never truly transform into something else permanently. Because we have established that in the previous videos that it goes against its infinite and undivided nature. If you haven't watched those videos, there's a link down in the description below. Please check those out. So, pure awareness in its essence has the property of knowing as its very nature. Just like it's in the nature of water to be wet. Similarly, pure awareness is always helplessly illumining itself. And since there is no other, so in its nature of knowing, it initiates a knowing of primarily a desire to know something else. And with that desire, it imagines in itself an illusory state called a state of ignorance, which is essentially a state of forgetfulness or sleep. And as a result, it imagines the very first object, which is a reflection of itself as an acknowledgement in just a simple I am. I exist, which essentially becomes the first apparent separation, leading to the rise of a cosmic mind, which then projects forth a field of illusion with infinite possibilities or potential just waiting to spring forth, which is basically like the quantum field or like the primordial seed state just before the Big Bang, where everything is unmanifested until the supreme observer makes a choice to observe or manifest something. And that thing comes into being, just like that. And so, the movie of the universe is essentially projected out of this seed state. That is why in the Indian mythology, it is symbolically represented that the supreme reality imagining takes the form of Lord Vishnu as a creator, lying asleep on a serpent. The serpent itself depicts the seed foundation lying dormant for the universe to be projected later. At the micro level, all conscious beings, humans, and other creatures helplessly and repetitively experience this cycle, continuously as part of the cosmic mind. Even the insentient matter is all cyclical in reflection of the macrocosm. It is commonly considered that the waking state is our default reality. And then usually at night we go off to sleep, starting with a deep sleep, followed by the world of dreams. But the Upanishads of the Vedas explore this in great detail and postulate that it is the other way around. Pure awareness as a real nature and the only reality that there is. But just like a reflection, it appears to move between states, beginning with a deep sleep state of forgetfulness to conceal our true nature, so that it can act out as finite beings in the subtle world of the dream state, which is like a warm-up or preparation state, which is then followed by a gross, apparent, solid reality of the waking world. Although the exact sequence of it hardly matters, all we know from our own experience is that these are the three states we experience in our consciousness. So to summarize, there are only two things happening. There is the ultimate subject, and it projects an apparent reflection on itself. Because in essence, there can be no other in the infinite. So it accomplishes that by a process of superimposition within or upon itself in order to project this reality. Just like in the sense it is adorning a costume. In essence, God is the master of illusion, a true magician, and the greatest like God does illusion in the only way possible. That it is so hard to break that only an essence of God alone can begin to question it. The magician here is also the audience of the magic. So you have to appreciate the sheer brilliance and beauty of it. The ultimate reality playing hide and seek with itself. Vedanta and Buddhism use these examples to illustrate, just like how if one is walking in the night and comes across a piece of rope on the ground, mistakes it for a snake, or if one is in a desert on a hot day and notices a mirage and mistakes it for water. But these mistakes are only possible by presence of an element of ignorance, just like a sleight of hand, in order to accomplish the illusion. In case of the snake, the dark plays that role, and in the mirage, the distance and the heat fulfills that part. But upon closer investigation, we always discover the truth behind the illusion. That is why the Eastern mystics described the perception of reality essentially exists between two states: ignorance and knowledge. Specifically, ignorance and knowledge of the real nature of our essence and of essentially this reality. God is essentially playing the illusion with itself. But if you ask how is the ultimate reality playing this grand illusion at such an unimaginable scale, then you have to ask yourself that if you were enjoying a magic show, would you rather know how the magic trick was done? Because the entire point of the illusion is ruined the moment you know how it was accomplished. And to pull off the greatest illusion, the ultimate reality begins by imagining the biggest illusion of even forgetting its real nature. So it can project this infinite realm of objects and experiences. But why does the infinite go through this endless exercise? To pretend to be a finite being, do something against its very nature, when all it results is in endless suffering because of the temporary nature of it all. We'll continue to explore this in the next video. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless, and peace to you all.